Okay, it's November, but fall reading is not over. I could not stop listening to it. She's like, what if it's me? No, that's stupid. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna lose it, I'm gonna lose it. Stop it! When we talk about yearning, oh my goodness, that was on page 47. I've checked off essentially none of my fall TBR books that I want to get to, so we are going to read a couple in this reading vlog together. I've got an entire stack of possibilities right next to me. Up first is A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic. This one is most likely going to get read in this video. It is a cozy fantasy in which a human baker is in this magical world and she has to kind of prove to everyone that she's good enough. I bought this one pretty recently, but I have been on such a cozy fantasy kick recently and I'm trying to find as many as I can, so this is a distinct possibility. Next up I have Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I am definitely going to read this fall, but whether it's for this video or another one, to be determined. But this is her first paranormal romance book that she's ever written, and I still haven't read it yet, even though Mate just came out, so this book is definitely getting written. Next up we have Serpent and Dove. This is like an OG book talk book. I think it's Witch x Witch Hunter. That's essentially all that I know about this book, so very quintessentially fall. Next I have Ritual Income. This is an indie book. I met BL Brown at a bookish convention, and she was super fun, and this is the vibes of this book. So a darker witchy romantasy book, so we'll see if I'm in the mood for that, but I'm really hoping to get to this eventually. Next we have A Study in Drowning. This is also like a book talk darling, but I've never read it even though I've had it for so long. I wouldn't say it's exactly dark academia, but it's the same kind of vibes, in which I think it's a professor or like an artist or somebody or storyteller, I don't really know, but he dies and she gets the opportunity to go and redesign his house. But when she gets there, there's somebody else. That's really all I know about this book, but definitely very fall vibes. Next I have Bring Me Your Midnight. This is, I know, a witchy book in which for some reason she gets expelled from her witchy island and has to go on an adventure. We have Child of the Pines. I also met this author and this bookmark is just beautiful. So this is an indie duology, I believe, and I think it's just like a paranormal werewolf romance. Next we have The Foxglove King. I picked this up originally because I just love these end papers so much, but she has the power to raise the dead, and that kind of starts out this epic romantasy kind of fantasy series that I've been wanting to read since I got this book so long ago. We have A Treachery of Swans, which is a sapphic Swan Lake retelling, which I don't think is like specifically for fall, but it just feels so autumn to me. We have Grave Mercy, which is a YA book in which I think she's the daughter of Death and has his powers. We have Curse of the Wolf King by Tessonja Odette. I also met her, and she was really lovely, and look at that art. Again, similar. I don't think it's supposed to be for fall, but the vibes just fit. And lastly, we have another YA, An Enchantment of Ravens. She is a portrait artist and she does a painting for the Fae Autumn Prince, and things go wrong from there. I will say out of any of the others, this one is also very likely to be read. But out of all of these books in front of me right now, I want to read them all. I really want to read them all. But for this video and immediately, I think we just have to pick up A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic. It feels right. It feels right. So in a move totally unlike me, I forgot to talk about the audiobooks that I was also considering for this reading vlog for my fall reading. And this will become more relevant in a second, but I tend to listen to audiobooks a lot faster than reading actual books because I drive a lot constantly. I am always driving in the car for like 1 to 2 hours, like all the time. And so I listen to audiobooks as I read, but I also listen to audiobooks as I go on walks, as I eat all of my meals, as I edit. So there's a lot of times that I'm reading audiobooks like all the time, and I listen to them at like 2x, sometimes up to 3x speed depending on the book. And so most of the books I read this year are going to be audiobooks for all those reasons. So it's weird that I forgot to talk about them. But anyway, a couple of the books that I already have checked out, I use the free Libby app, so all of these are already checked out on my shelves. First of all, I have House of Roots and Ruin, which I have been trying to read for freaking ever. It is part of Aaron A. Craig's world that are dark, YA dark fairy tale retellings, and this is one that I've been trying to get to for a long time, so I'm hoping to listen to that soon. I also have the Starless Sea, which maybe not be fall exactly, but it's like secret society, magical realism kind of world that like leans dark academia, at least in my mind. I don't know. All I know is that I have had no inclination to read it in like spring or summer, but like fall and winter feels right for the Starless Sea, so that's an option. I also have The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I don't know. That is, I think is dark academia, but like in the real world having to do with Greek tragedies and Greek mythology, I think. That's definitely why I picked it out of a little free library a long time ago. So I have that book, and I checked out the audiobook. So I was like, you know what, maybe now's the time. I also have A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I have historically really, really liked the other books that I've read by her, and this Scholomance trilogy is like a YA fantasy dark academia book that I've never read. And so I have the other two books. I think I found them in Little Free Libraries or maybe used book sales or something like that, but I've never found the first book, and so I finally just checked it out on Libby, and fall would definitely be the time for that book, for sure. I also have Godkiller. When it first came out, I was so interested in it, and now, years later, I don't remember much other than like I do really want to read it, and the cover itself just feels really autumnal to me. And I think I've checked it out from Libby like 20 times and I've never listened to it. So maybe this is the time. Maybe this is the time. And then lastly, I had literally, before I even made this first video, I had already checked out the audiobook for Bring Me Your Midnight because it was a witchy fall book and I knew I had it on my physical TBR, and I forgot that I had already checked it out before this video even started. And so in a fun turn of events, over the last day and a half, I listened to the entire thing. And so our first book checked off of the fall TBR is Bring Me Your Midnight, which was obviously part of the stack that I was considering, but it wasn't one of the front runners. So it's kind of funny that I listened to it first. But anyway, I have a much better understanding of the book now. I love that the end papers are the map of this world. Essentially, this is the witchery. This is just like a blown up version of it, but this is the witchery, and this is where all of the witches, and witches means both male and female and other, everyone is a witch if they have magical powers, and they all live on this island because the mainland are people without magic, and they do not like them. Like, they are scared of magic, they are scared of witches, they want to kill them all. And so eons ago, you know, maybe not eons, but generations ago, they struck up a plan to get all of the witches off the mainland and into this island. And so now they're all trapped here. Well, trapped, but humans come and cross the ferry every day, and they're basically tourists, and they buy things from the witches because these witches practice what they call low magic. And these are just very little easy spells that really take up no magical prowess at all. Like, humans are not scared of them because all they're doing is, you know, like putting peace into a tea, and our main character's family owns the perfumery shop, and so when you smell one of your perfumes, you get this certain emotion. And so it's very low level, not evil, not scary, dark magic. And so this book opens up with our main character, and she is the daughter of like the main witch on the island. She's the head of everyone. She's like their president or whatever they call her. And their whole life she's been prepared to marry the human governor's son so that they can have a peace treaty between the two. She would go over and live with them as a wife, as like, you know, a physical thing of well-being, to say that they are at peace, but at the same time the mainlanders would give them protection, and they would give them a cut of the profits that they make off their own people. And so it's this whole mutual agreement, and so this whole island of witches is like really counting on her to marry this guy, but like nobody's really happy, but at the same time, like, they're so scared, they're so anxious all the time. And at the full moon, every full moon, the entirety of the witches walk into the sea right here on the other side of, because they don't want the humans to see. They walk into the sea and they release all their excess power into the ocean, because they're like, yes, we don't want the extra power, it'll kill us if we keep it, hold on to it, because the magic we do isn't strong enough to get rid of it all out of our bodies. And so they release it into the sea. But it turns out that is actually causing tides around the sea to become very violent, and the problem is only getting worse. And so she is feeling unsettled by this, and also is starting to feel the pressure of tying herself to this marriage and to this life without magic. And so as this is happening, she ends up finding this mystery boy who turns out that actually he is living on the island in secret with all of his people because they practice what she thinks of as dark magic, and together they save her life because something happens and they start to fall in love. And so this book, I could not stop listening to it. It's definitely YA. It is definitely a YA book. Oh my goodness. But I really loved some of the higher topics that they're talking about here. People and belonging and personal freedom versus duty, and familial obligation versus like the duty to your heart. And so it deals with a lot of those topics. It also deals with who do you belong to in your own identity and how you see yourself, and our human and magical connection to nature. So there's a lot of things going on here. But at the same time, it's this girl having her first kiss, you know? I would say it's a very sweet romance in the way that they all kind of learn from each other and they have these really sweet experiences. But again, with all YAs, there were times where I was just like cringing from how juvenile it was. But for the rest of the book, I thought it was really, really lovely. Definitely something I've never read before, something very new to me. And if you like witchy YA romances, I really do recommend this. There's a lot of politics at play here and a lot of things going on behind the scenes. And so I felt honestly satisfied with how much plot to romance ratio there was in here, and I was really rooting for them. Now, I don't know if this was part of the initial stack that I was talking about, but today I actually started Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This is her first paranormal romance. It is vampires and werewolves and humans together. It's a marriage of convenience, but also with all the STEMinist flair and like hilarity and cringiness of Ali Hazelwood books. I might not have put it into this video because I'm actually doing an entire Ali Hazelwood dedicated vlog, and so I think I will just leave it as a mention that it is the perfect time to be reading this book. I am so happy I am. It's going to get done within 24 hours. It's just how I read Ali Hazelwood books, and so soon I will get back to the stack of books that's staring at me from right there. So yesterday I finally picked up A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic, and I think I'm just about halfway through, and I feel like a hater. Before I start that though, let me say all the things that I'm liking about this book so far. Number one, it revolves around a baking competition, which is so sweet. It's so cozy. It's quite literally the Great British Bake Off, but all of the contestants are like magical creatures. So like we have elves, we have dwarves, and we also have like phoenix, which are like fox creatures. Then we have like all these other kinds of creatures, and it's really, really cool that each contestant, or most of them, are different species. So I think that's really cool. The world that this is set in is also really intriguing. She has a map here, and I feel like it's a huge world, and there's a lot to explore here. They seem to be very, like, they keep saying like the northern lands. There's like pride in where they're coming from. I also really like the cover. This is pretty. Yeah, and unfortunately that might be it for all of the positive notes. Unfortunately, it is now time for me to be a hater, because if I did not own this book and it wasn't so quick and fast, I would have DNF'd it really, really fast. Unfortunately, I kind of hate our main character. In the book it says that she's 25, but truly she acts like a 16-year-old. She lost her parents when she was 16, and I just feel like that emotionally stunted her. She's extremely immature. She's always late, even though like her job as a baker depends on her being on time, and she's very used to being mistreated because she's human, magicless, and yet, and so she goes through life being like, okay, well, everyone's just gonna treat me badly, like, you know, I don't deserve anything, I'm just gonna have to scrape by for my life, I'm just gonna have to survive, even though like my big dream is to have a bakery at home. And so this whole book, she has these lovely ogre next door neighbors. These men love her dearly. They basically adopted her, and they entered her into this baking competition. So they're the ones that took the initiative. And then this elf guy comes to collect her, basically to invite her to the competition, and she's like, no, I don't want to, and they are able to convince her, and she is basically dragged to the competition by this elf guy of her own free will, but they really had to convince her to do it. And so now that she's at the competition, she's made two friends, and they're the ones dragging her around everywhere, being like, hey, we have to go do this, hey, we have to go do this. And so she just has absolutely no personal agency. Like, she's being dragged everywhere around, even though she's in this like once in a lifetime opportunity. Like, she has a chance to win. Her baking is really good. That is another thing. I do love all of the pastries and the ingredients and the talk of her finding herself in baking. I really do enjoy that. But oh my goodness, other than that, like, she is driving me crazy. She's driving me crazy, especially because she finds herself having a bit of a crush on this elf that came to collect her, right? She keeps saying he's so beautiful, he's so handsome, like, you know, he's perfect cheekbones and all this stuff, right? And so she's like, man, maybe I have a crush on him. And then she finds out, I don't know how she didn't already know this, elves have fateds, aka fated mates. And so she's like, what if it's me? No, that's stupid. Like, oh my god, I'm gonna lose it, I'm gonna lose it. And so he once again is there to help her, because they're allowed to bring these like bags of their own ingredients from home, and she immediately loses hers. And so after the first round, he brings her out to go collect some ingredients for herself. And so he's once again helping her. She's like, oh man, I like him, but like, what if I'm not his fated? Like, what's the point? And so he like asked her, he's like, he's being very vague about it. It's super obvious that like she is his fated mate, but she doesn't know this, and so she's literally like, thanks for helping me, but I don't think we should see each other anymore. And it's just like, girl, you can't just be friends with the guy that like did all this for you. Like, she's driving me crazy. All of that, and I've read the word gulped like 8 times, which is 8 times too many. It sucks, because I don't know, J. Penner, this is my first book by them, but it really feels like an 18-year-old wrote this, and which is such a mean thing for me to say, but the language, cozy fantasy can be simple world, simple things, low stakes magic, but it doesn't have to be simple language, simple plot. This really feels like something I would read on Wattpad, or like a first book that's published. And maybe this is their first book, I have no idea. And that's a really harsh thing for me to say, but a surge of excitement trilled in her chest. She was really at the baking battle. Where is Ellie? Arletta started as she held the silver key in the air, but Viesa's backside was already around the corner. Arletta puffed out her cheeks like a fish and blew out the air in a gust. Stars in heaven, she mumbled, steeling herself while flipping through the pamphlet. Maybe there would be a map inside. That would be incredibly helpful. Like, you know. And that was me just flipping to a random page. I have a lot of other things I can say negatively about this book, but I feel like that's enough. I am going to force myself to finish it, because that's just how this is going. But not a great book so far, I'm very, very sad to say. So I read maybe another chapter or 2 after I made that last video, and I'm gonna have to DNF this book. I literally am gonna have to. I'm definitely at the 50% mark, but it just like, it kept getting cringier and cringier, and I just did not want to keep going. Like, I barely read anything the last 2 days because I just did not want to read this book. And even though I said it's short enough that I can just fly through it, I know exactly how this book is gonna go. Maybe there'll be some things that I couldn't have guessed, but on the most part, like, I know how it's gonna end, and I'm just, you know what, I have too many things going on right now. I have too many books, and I don't want to do this to myself. Even though I have in the past, I think I need to be more liberal with my DNFing, and unfortunately it's gonna have to be this book, which sucks a lot because I love the idea of it, and I love the idea of cozy romance, and I think this is probably one of the reasons why people say they don't like cozy romance when they're like this. And it makes me really sad because I bought this book. It's really pretty. I love it. I really love the idea of it, but I think I need to get this out of my house. Like, I need some distance. So I'm gonna have to pick up a completely new book either tonight or tomorrow, depending. This kind of like killed the desire to read right now, which sucks a lot. So either tonight or tomorrow I shall pick up a new book. Okay, I was not expecting this, but I am so in love with this book so far. Also, I love my little bookmark that I got in Czechia, but oh my goodness, I started this book last night in bed. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna get myself back into reading because I did take a couple days off, and I was like, I'm just gonna read for 30 minutes. I read for almost an hour, and I was like, okay, I like need to go to bed. I did not anticipate this. I literally would like be rolling over to grab my phone to take a picture of pages because I was like, what is happening? Like, what is happening? This book is so unexpectedly beautiful. It is so unexpectedly beautiful, to the point where this morning all I wanted to do was read a little bit more. So I read for another 30 minutes, and I went back through all of the pictures that I had taken of the books, and I went back through and I started tabbing this book, which was so not on my radar because I tab for very few books, honestly. Basically for big series that I know I'm going to want to reread that have a lot of information, but I genuinely just wanted to tab this so I could keep these quotes forever. Literally on page 3 is where I have my first tab, and here is where our human painter portrait artist is describing her current subject, which is a fair folk, and this is like how she describes him. His eyes were the clear crystal blue of the sky after rain has washed away the summer heat, his complexion as pale and flawless as porcelain, and his hair the radiant silver gold of dew illuminated by a sunrise. I know it sounds ridiculous, but fair folk require such comparisons. There's simply no other way to describe them. Once, a whimsical poet died of despair after finding himself unequal to the task of capturing a fair one's beauty in simile. I think it more likely he died of arsenic poisoning, but so the story goes. You must keep in mind, of course, that all of this is only a glamour, not what they really look like underneath. That was on page 3. Page 3. I was like, what? Okay, so not only are you capable of the most beautiful descriptive language that is not only like just visually stunning but really encapsulates what the fair folk are, but then you're also being so self-aware of this and poking fun at it, but in a very like dangerous kind of way. On page 19 thereabouts, she has gone to the village to get more paints because she has heard that the Autumn Prince is going to come and ask for a portrait, and this is a very big deal. And she goes out, and this disgustingly decrepit stag that is filled with like molten bugs and human carcasses and things, a very dangerous creature that in the past this type of creature has killed both of our main girl's parents. One has now found her, and it's very, very rare, and so she's freaking out, and so she runs from it and it chases her, and this fairy folk show up and he kills the monster. And so this is her meeting him for the first time. With his head ducked before me, I only saw his hair, which was unruly, wavy, not quite curly, and dark, with just the slightest red tint in the sun. Its fierce unkemptness reminding me of a hawk's or a raven's feathers blown the wrong way in a strong wind. And like Gadfly, I could smell him. The spice of crisp, dry leaves, of cool nights under a clear moon, a wildness, a longing. My heart hammered from terror of the fairy beast and the equal danger of meeting a fair one alone in a field. Therefore, I beg you to excuse my foolishness when I say that suddenly I wanted that smell more than anything I had ever wanted before. I wanted it with a terrifying thirst. Not him exactly, but rather whatever great, mysterious change it represented, a promise that somewhere the world was different. And that is, of course, her first meeting with the Autumn Prince who has come. And so, of course, he comes and he sits for her for a portrait. And in here, it describes her as an artist. It's difficult to explain what happens when I pick up a charcoal stick or a paintbrush. I can tell you the world changes. I see things one way when I'm not working, and an entirely different way when I am. The deep luminous glow of an iris where the light hits it from the window becomes exquisitely compelling. I hunger for the shadow that falls diagonally across my subject's collar, the fine, lighter filaments in his hair ablaze like thread of gold. My mind and hand become possessed. I paint not because I want to, not because I'm good at it, but because it is what I must do, what I live and breathe, what I was made for. The life of an artist! And then we go through maybe 5-10 pages of them describing how time is passing, weeks are passing, right in the very beginning of Rook, the Autumn Prince, sitting for her in this portrait session. And it's describing their connection not exactly in like the way that you would expect. It's really just describing that through sitting together for hours at a time, they forge this kind of undeniable connection that they have really never felt before. And of course, we're only getting it from our human's point of view, but she can tell that it's reciprocated. And in this, there is a kind of quiet but steady and undeniable love that has already been forming within these few weeks together that we're not really seeing on the page. We've only really seen a couple interactions that they've had, but you can tell that there's something there. And yes, normally that would really bother the crap out of me because I want to be able to see them forming this connection, But in this situation, I'm believing it because of just the beautiful way that we are seeing things being described. We are seeing time pass. Like, I feel it so internally that there is a connection there. And then, of course, the portrait is finished and Rook must leave. And so here, right after he is gone, here's what she's thinking. Now I have to tell you how foolish I am. Before that gray and lifeless time following Rook's departure, I've always scoffed at stories in which maidens pine for their absent suitors, boys they've hardly known a week and have no business falling for. Didn't they realize their lives were worth more than the dubious affection of one silly young man? That there were things to do in a world that didn't revolve solely around their heartbreak? Then it happens to you and you understand you aren't any different from those girls after all. Oh, they still seem just as absurd. You've simply joined them in a quite humbling way. But isn't absurdity part of being human? We aren't ageless creatures who watch centuries pass from afar. Our worlds are small, our lives are short, and we can only bleed a little before we fall. Stop it! When we talk about yearning, oh my goodness, that was on page 47. And as it says in the back of the book, Rook comes back for her in a very violent way. And I'm finding myself particularly drawn to this human character because she has only ever lived in basically the summer court, the summer lands. There it is always summer, always, always. And so she has never left. She has never seen autumn. She's never experienced winter. There is a human land beyond this kind of magical realm in which there are seasonal changes, but it's not something that she can really understand because she's never experienced it. And yet she finds herself yearning for this change, for this growth in her, and seeing more. And so we have just entered the autumn lands, and here she says, after 17 years of living in a world that never changed, I felt as though I just flung off a stifling wool sweater and felt the breeze on my skin for the very first time. Nothing would ever be enough again. Oh my goodness, I have just so immediately connected to this character and this desire to see things, to experience things, to just move forward in life and just, you know, have the safety of something that is familiar, something that you know that you are already, you know how it's going to happen, you know what to expect, and you have a level of comfort and safety in that. AKA, I am a huge homebody. I love being in this room all of the time, but there's also this innate desire, this undeniable desire, this thirst for being out in the world and seeing the change and finding things that are uncomfortable and new and having these experiences that you would never have otherwise. And it takes a very strong kind of bravery to be able to step into that change. And once you have seen that, once you have traveled, once you have experienced new things, there really is no going back. You can always physically go home and experience those comforts, but that craving to see the world, to have these adventures, to be able to grow as a human being is just undeniable and will never be quenched. And the fact that all of that happened within the first 70 pages, I am in utter shock and awe that I am loving this book so much. I want to be able to enjoy this experience of reading it and experiencing it for the first time in as many ways as possible, truly, but also on a deeper level. And I've been finding that, yes, I read a lot. I always have. I probably always will. And I'm not going to slow down in reaction to anything, but I do want to be more intentional with how I'm consuming these books on a, like, just for me. Like, yes, to make better content, sure, but I just want to be able to look back on this book and all the other books and just love it in a deeper way, I guess. And so we'll see if this lasts, but I am about to drive to Barnes & Noble because I have decided that I am going to create another reading journal. And I say this as another because I have other reading journals in different ways. Like, I have my reading spreadsheet that is the love of my life. I absolutely love that, and that is where I'm gonna put a lot of information. I have Goodreads and Storygraph and all these places that I write reviews. When I, you know, am able to, I often get very overwhelmed with writing reviews, and so I let them kind of pile up for weeks or months at a time without updating them. And then I have physical journals in which I just like write the names of the books, like in my yearly bullet journals. And then I have a reading journal from Illumicrate that I really don't keep up with because it's just not really, it's not really accessible to me in the everyday. And so I've decided that although I really, really, really love watching videos of people and their reading journals and making them so beautiful and aesthetic, I just know for a fact that if I try really hard to make this reading journal aesthetic, it's not going to be accessible for me because I'm going to try really, really hard to make it perfect, and that's just going to overwhelm me. So I've decided I'm going to get a new journal, brand new. I've already looked through a ton of the journals I already own, and just none of them are going I want the dots, the grid. I don't have any journals like that. So I'm gonna go and get one, and I'm going to make like the most minimal but nice reading journal and kind of use it as a reading log. I'm probably gonna go through and like write down all the books that I read this year and try to add more context to them. But then going forward, starting with An Enchantment of Ravens, I want to have it as kind of like a diary of reading, I guess. I want to be able to bring this journal around with me as I'm reading these books, because I'm sat here tabbing these things. Such beautiful, beautiful writing in here, and I'm really deeply connecting to it, and I don't want to lose that. And so I'd like to have somewhere that I can just write down these thoughts and feelings that I have. And yes, I'm so happy that I have my YouTube channel in which I often talk out these thoughts, but I really only show myself reading about a third to half the books that I read each month on here. And so I just want to make sure that I have somewhere to put all my thoughts and feelings. So let's go to Barnes & Noble to get another reading journal. I've been sitting here for over an hour just reading this book. I decided that today was a reading day and I cannot put it down. So much has happened. So much has happened. I've been tabbing like crazy. My emotions are all over the place. I have about 30 pages left, so I wanted to get this finished so that I can just kind of like debrief and just take it all in. I have ways that I want this to end, but I truly do not know any direction in which it's going to go. Like, I don't know. Like, there's a clear solution in my mind, but truly with this book, I don't even know. I don't know if it's going to be an option for them. I have so many questions, but I just had the epilogue. Well, oh, okay. All right, okay. All right, I have a lot of thoughts about this book. Firstly, though, I am so in love with this writing style. The language is just so emotional in a way that it's describing the things that are happening, the things that are in it, but it's giving you the emotion to what you should be feeling, whether it be disgust or awe or confusion or all of these emotions that I will talk about in a second, but so very human experience, written in a way that feels like it's for the fairy folk. Like it's poetic and really just beyond the scope, I think, of our normal reading, our normal writing, to a point where it elevates, where it feels like it's part of that like higher evolution, that fair folk writing, but it's not. It's for the humans. This book, I think, cleverly in a way, but also it's super on the nose, the themes it's trying to convey. It's very obviously about the human experience and the human desire and necessity, really, to enjoy life and to have life. And that's most clearly seen through Isabel and her craft, which is basically just like your job, your ability, your skill, the things you work for. Her craft is her painting, but it's really built up to be like an essence of who she is. Even though craft also can be cooking, it can also be knitting, it can also be tailoring. So they say it in this book that each craft is just a magical skill set that is beyond the scope of what these fair folk can do. So yes, in a way, it's like an ordinary skill that you can have, but it's elevated in a way in this book that makes total sense. Like, yes, she says that her craft of cooking and her craft of tailoring are not as good as her craft of painting, but there are those who have this craft, and especially her craft of painting is just so far elevated beyond anyone else. And so it gives us kind of magic to our everyday like talents and skills that I think is really romantic. And so we have this human emotion of taking pride in the skills you have and giving your own life into these skills. You know, if you spend your whole life as a painter, it becomes part of you. And as a photographer and as a writer and just as a creative in general, I can wholeheartedly understand this. And I really appreciate the way that the art of all of these tasks is just, it's really given to be an integral part of the human experience. That not every human has every craft, but there are crafts that just completely make the heart sing of certain humans. And then the other human experience that is in this book is the experience of love. These two do fall in love in a very subtle, beautiful way. There's nothing grand about the way they fall in love with each other. It is just them spending time together and seeing each other in different kinds of light. It is that they are willing to do anything for each other. They are willing to sacrifice a lot of things about themselves and even themselves wholeheartedly for each other. It's in the way that they are willing to protect each other at any cost. It's in the way that they will share their true selves with each other willingly, even if it was in the beginning unwilling at all. And so through these two things, the craft and the love, there is a clear divide between the humans who can experience these things and the fair folk. Those are two things the fair folk cannot have access to. If they try to partake in craft, there's a scene in here in which the Autumn Prince holds a stick of rabbit over the fire to like try to cook it for her, and his life essence starts to dissolve. Like, he is frozen, he is unable to combat it, and she has to rip the stick from his hand so that he won't die in front of her. So the act of partaking in craft is self-destructive to the point where they are literally unable to create anything for themselves, which is why they go to the humans so much, to have them make clothes for them, have them create artwork for them, because they cannot partake in it themselves. There is one fair folk in here who was a human but drank from the immortal well and became fair folk, and she used to be a writer, and so now she collects books because she feels that there is something so deeply part of her that she is missing, and so she collects books feverishly to try to fill that hole. And for love, the fair folk are mostly incapable of feeling these emotions. It's very clear that they have very little range of what they are emotionally capable of feeling, but for some reason our Autumn Prince is one of the few that does have this ability, and it is revealed. Actually, I won't spoil that, but he is capable of love, and they have this law amongst the fair folk called the good law, and if a fair folk and a human fall in love and they are both in love at the same time, then they must be put to death because it is against the law. And so although it happens so infrequently, they are, at least some of them are capable of this, but it is still inaccessible to them because it is against the law with the death penalty. And so the overarching idea of this book is that to be human, you are to love and to put yourself into your craft. It is to find things that light up your soul and find people that you can have these things with. And the way that we are repeatedly shown that the humans idealize the fair folk and they want to become them so badly, but the fair folk, all they want to do is have this accessibility to the human experience without it being like a lethal detriment to themselves. And so they're caught in this vicious cycle in which they are just trying to attain what the other one has. Humans obviously want power, immortality, beauty, but the fair folk want the emotions and the love and the beauty and art that the humans can create. Something I really appreciated with this book is that we returned to the original definition, I'm not sure if it's completely original, but more original definition of fair folk or fairies or fairy folk, in that they are disgusting, terrifying creatures. They do not look right. They are able to glamour themselves, and that's how they mostly present themselves to humans, but there's a few instances in which our main girl Isabel sees these fair folk when they are not hiding themselves. They just look weird. They are gaunt. They have like luminous skin that you can see their bones and their blood within. They have blood like tree sap. Their eyes are just completely inhuman, and they have no expressionability in them. They truly are monsters of the forest that are just very good at hiding it. Also, within the original definitions, these fair folk cannot lie. They cannot tell lies. They make bargains with humans, but they twist the bargains to become very cruel. They have eternal lifespans, and so everything that they do is to kind of distract themselves from this eternal life set before them. They are looking for diversions. They are looking for some fun, often to the detriment of each other. It is also a very ruthless society in which as soon as one fair folk provides any sort of weakness to the others to see, the others will physically snatch upon them and bring them down to try to take their place. It is a ruthless, endless society that was really fascinating, but there's also this portion in which everything the fair folk touch, it is glamorized, it is perfect, it is beautiful. But for instance, they're at this feast, and little pastries are passed down the table, and as soon as our human touches one, it crumbles back into what it originally was, which is a mass of maggots and mold and this just absolutely disgusting things. And the same thing happens with certain portions of their buildings. They're mostly made of nature, but they can revert back to moss and mold and bones and dust, and the vicious creatures that are in here are also made of human remains and bugs, and it's very graphic and brutal in a way that is like it overtakes you in a way that it's shocking and disgusting, but it also is very clearly showing you that there is something wrong in this way of life. It is not beautiful, it is not clean, it is not perfect in the way that we think it is. It is very clearly wrong and long past its lifespan in this world. So truly, on like a thematic level, on a personal connection level, on a sentence structure, beautiful description writing level, this was such an incredible book. I am like in awe that we were able to achieve so much of this so clearly in exactly 300 pages. Like, that is so concise. Like, every page, every sentence had its purpose, and I cannot believe how well it was brought down to this. Even if I think some people can argue that the prose is a little purple, it's a bit too flowery, it's a bit too descriptive, I think it's necessary to show how much time and effort and energy needs to be put into describing the landscape, the people, things as they seem to be and how they actually are, so that we understand kind of on a more fair folk level. Like I said, the writing feels like it's for the fair folk level of how that world really is, and I thought that came across really, really beautifully. But from the perspective of just a girl who likes to read romantasy, I do desperately wish, like, I understand the allure of having a standalone novel that is this concise and just gets the whole story across, but desperately I kind of wish this was a whole ass trilogy in which we went across all of the realms and had more of a build-up to their love and more of a build-up to the sacrifices they would have to be, and more of a build-up to the ending. That the ending I am quite satisfied with, but it did happen rather quickly. We do start out in the human summer lands, and then we go into the autumn lands, we go into the spring lands, and we hear mentions of the winter people. We meet one of them, and we hear mentions of this other human lands in which the seasons change. But there's still so many gaps of knowledge and gaps in which I think the story could have continued to give this world a much deeper, more fleshed out story. I would love to have seen them travel to all four realms. Although winter in this one in particular probably wouldn't have happened, but I would have loved for them to have more interaction with the winter fair folk, because they do not love the humans. They do not hide themselves. They show their true forms. They do not go out and buy clothes and like have glamours and stuff. So I would have loved to have seen more winter fair folk and have that be in contrast to the other people that we've meet. We really only stop around the woods in the autumn court. I would have loved to see where Rook comes from. I wanted to see more of his court, his people. Is he a prince of just a forest and there's nothing there? We don't know. There's no mention of a city that he comes from. He has been hidden away for 300 years, but where? What has he been doing? We don't know. We really only see the spring court, basically, and that I feel like is only a small portion of the spring lands. So I really feel like had she wanted to, this would have been a spectacular series. I could even see it as a quartet, like one for each season. Like I would have read the crap out of that series. And although the love feels earned and it feels real for me in this book, I can see how if I prodded that feeling, I may feel like it's not enough, but I'm gonna leave it. I very often feel in books that the love has not had time to shape, it has not had time to course like into their very veins, but in this one I feel like it's there. I wish I had been there to witness it, even though that's kind of also the point in that we don't really witness it ourselves. It kind of grows among you. So maybe we might not have seen it directly, but I wish I had been there for more of the journey, I guess. So although I have many wishes and desires from this book, I just wanted to read more of this world and this story. I am thrilled by this book, and oh my goodness, I've had it for like 2 or 3 years at least, and I cannot believe it's taken me so long to get to here. It was a truly beautiful, beautiful book. And really, I read it in autumn because she's with the Autumn Prince, but they're only in the autumn like leaves a very little amount of time. They spend a majority of their time in the summer and spring courts. So really, I think this can be read at any time of year, even though because she is falling in love with the Autumn Prince, there is a certain fondness, a certain magic whenever we see autumn leaves. So I think the transition between summer and fall would be the absolute perfect time to read this book, but really any time of year would be amazing, and it's only 300 pages. Okay, last night I went downstairs to my kitchen for dinner and crafts, and I started Naomi Novik's A Deadly Education because I thought it was just the perfect autumnal audiobook to have while I did all this. I ate my dinner, I baked some banana bread, and then I got started on my new reading journal. In hindsight, I definitely should have put like this side of pictures on the inside so it'd be more flat because she's looking a little off center there. But honestly, looking through, I really like the way it looks on the other side, and this took me hours to do all of the books that I've read so far in 2025. But I really am thrilled with the way it came out. And as I was sitting there, I was in my kitchen until almost midnight, and I finished A Deadly Education. I literally even had time to listen to some music afterwards to finish this book. That's how long this thing took me. But anyway, I did literally listen to A Deadly Education in one sitting, completely all the way through. It was a very interesting book, but I'm really happy I listened to it on audiobook, and especially in one sitting, because I don't think this book lends particularly well to being read physically on the page and in multiple sittings. I really think I did the best way to read that book because it's basically a stream of consciousness kind of narration and events as they unfold across about a week. And so I think if I had read this in any other way, it would have felt really slow to me. But I really liked how it felt like I was just inside of her head and hearing her own thoughts. Because this book, A Deadly Education, takes place in like this magic school, potentially in Wales in the UK, somewhere like that, and they're completely cut off from the world. It's people that are high school age, so freshmen through seniors, and they are basically trapped in this kind of liminal space in that they have no contact with the outside world, but there are very strict rules and like social norms that they go through. And we follow our main character who has some relatively dark magic, and she feels as though because of that she is a pariah. She is on the outside of society, and she's actively trying really hard to make alliances to be able to survive this school, because students die constantly. Like on average, I think like 40% of your school is dead by the end of each year. And so we follow her as she is trying to navigate the social circles and the social rules. In this magic, you have like 3 main tracks, and the school has crazy rules in which you're going through. There's no teachers, like everything is self-taught, and so when you learn a new spell, you can trade that spell with other people to form alliances to get admission into these, like, I don't remember what they're actually called, but they're basically covens around the world, and so you can like basically be safe, because the final test is called graduation. And it's funny, in the beginning they say, we call it that because that's what the Americans call it, but it's not really like a graduation. Basically they're released into the basement of this school to fight, to like try to fight their way out of this terrifyingly huge monster pit, and if they escape and they survive, then they graduate and they get to leave into the real world. And there's like every major city in the world has like these covens, and you really want to be part of them so that you can be part of their alliance and have a better chance of survival. And so everything in here is really, everyone in here is very self-serving. They're looking out for themselves, and they are trying to form these alliances and become more powerful and store up more magic to try to survive these schools, because they are crazy. Monsters are attacking all of the time. There's certain rules, like you have to learn languages. Like our main girlie is learning like 7 languages or something to be able to understand these spells and to translate them. It's a really fascinating world that she's built up. But unfortunately, a lot of the like writing is just her telling us the rules. It's a lot of explanation, like a lot of explanation, because there's a lot to understand about this world, because there's just so many rules that were made up, and they're all very fascinating. But I found myself zoning out a couple of times because she just kind of went on and on about these rules and these norms, which ended up being important to the rest of the book, so you can understand like why people have these motivations, why some students might turn to darker magic, why some students might kill each other. So there's a lot going on here. But I'm very happy I listened to it. The main problem of this book is that there's this student, this junior from New York. He's part of the New York Coven, and everyone is completely in love with him, and they put him on this really high pedestal. His name is Orion, and he is the best at slaying these monsters. And I actually really love how she calls him Orion, as in the hunter, because of that. And so he's kind of on this pedestal, and he doesn't like it, but he's just out there being absolutely reckless, killing all these monsters. And because of that, the monsters in the basement are starving, and they're getting more desperate and more reckless, and they're coming for that senior class. And our main girlie does not like to be saved by Orion, because she wants nothing to do with him. She wants him to stay out of her way so that she can prove herself, so that she can make some friends and make some alliances. And so they end up kind of begrudgingly spending a lot of time together. I won't explain it. I think it's hilarious. And so we kind of follow this week leading up to the last graduation before their own, and so the stakes are pretty high for everyone involved. I think our main character is absolutely hilarious. She gives mixed signals a lot, but I think it's because she's still figuring herself out in this crazy dangerous world. Her name is Galadriel, specifically as of Lord of the Rings, which is kind of cringy but also kind of hilarious, that everything in our world, the Lord of the Rings, New York, Shanghai, all these things, like they're real. Like everything in here is real. Like it is a school within our completely normal everyday world, which I think is kind of hilarious. It's pretty obvious too how this book kind of talks about being born into societies, like people from like the New York coven have children, and obviously those children are already set in with the rest of the New York kids, versus the kids that were born as humans. They don't know anything about it. They come in and they're very likely to die because they don't have these alliances. They don't have the know-how. They have way less magic. If you're part of a coven, you can share your magic so that you always feel safe. And so there's a lot of talk about privilege of being born into the correct families, being born into having already these alliances. There's like chores and things people have to do, but if you have no alliance, you can do the main coven's chores so that they can be like, well, we'll consider you for a spot in our coven when we escape here. So it's a very fascinating way to talk about how the elite move throughout the world and how that can be still applicable when you're in a very isolated situation in which New York cannot touch you in there, but it still is able to influence your power within the school. And it's very fascinating because some of these people with the privilege don't really understand that. Like they either just don't know what's happening or they just accept the norms. And so when we're with somebody who is ostracized from these kind of hierarchies, she's not able to sit at the safest tables in the cafeteria. She has to sit along the edges where she's more likely to be attacked. And so her constantly being on guard and constantly being attacked has led her to become very bitter about the hierarchy of school. And so when she kind of teams up with somebody who is the very pinnacle of this kind of society, it's really eye-opening to both of them. I wouldn't call this book romantic, and I won't explain it. It's not a romance, I don't think. It could be. I don't think so though, but that is going for it. I really can't give you any more details without spoiling it because it is a really, really funny sideline to the story. A very fascinating world, even though I have the second and third books on my shelves right there, I think I'm gonna have to continue listening to them because if it's the same kind of like stream of consciousness kind of narration, I think I'll struggle with that by reading it on the page. So I have other audiobooks that I could listen for this video, but I think I want to do one more book, and I think I really want to prioritize my physical TBR. So my stack is right here. Let's see what we got. All right, these are the books that we have left. I don't know. I did just read something kind of witchy, so I actually just read two things that were kind of witchy, so I don't think I'm in the mood for Serpent and Dove. That's like Witch Hunter. I'll get to that eventually, but I don't think it's right now. I don't think I'm in the mood for something dark witchy, so maybe not Ritual Income. I think I'm gonna save A Study in Drowning for my November TBR reading vlog, maybe. What's this under here? Child of the Pines. I could do with some wolf shifter romancing right now. Foxglove King. I really want to read this, but I think I need to finish the Belladonna series before I get into another human girl with death magic kind of thing. So I think that one's not right now. I think I need to finish Belladonna first. I could definitely do a Treachery of Swans. I think I want something a little loosey-goosey though, but that's an option. Grave Mercy, I don't think I'm in the mood for a YA, to be honest, right now. I don't think so. Curse of the Wolf King, I could definitely do right now. Let's see, of the three. Let me read the first page of each real quick. Alright, this one starts out a little bloody. Oh my god, looking at the map, I already want to read this so bad. I freaking love when there's like seasonal courts, which is why I wanted more from an Enchantment of Ravens. Okay, I really like this one. Okay, this is written so beautifully, but I think I'm more in the mood for this. So, time for Curse of the Wolf King by Tessonja Odette. Okay, I just reached the halfway point of A Curse for the Wolf King, and it's not exactly what I thought it is. It is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it is in this fae magical world in which our beast is the Winter Court king, but he's also a fae who can normally at will change into a wolf. So there's a lot going on here, and I think I really love the idea of this world, and I really like this rendition of the fae, who here can also speak no lies. They make bargains. I like that they have both Seelie and Unseelie forms, in which like their Seelie are their human forms and their Unseelie are their like animal shifter forms. I think that's really cool. I really like that we are attempting to do a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I like that a lot. I just don't think I like the actual plot of this book, but mostly because I think I just have too many questions and I'm having a hard time suspending my disbelief. So in here, there is a curse just in Beauty and the Beast, in which he accidentally, well, not accidentally, he purposefully killed some humans 5 years ago, and in retaliation the rest of the alphas from the other courts put a curse on him, and so he has to, within 5 years, he has to either give up the thing he values most, which is his wolf form, or he has to have somebody else give up the thing that they have, like, that they desire most. And so we find him here with only 3 months left within his 5-year curse, in which to break the curse. So he's really in the last possible thing, and he lures our main character out with a job interview, and they put on this dramatic and really dumb attempt to, like, in which, like, the rest of his wolf pack attacks her, and he, like, comes in and saves her, and he's like, do you appreciate me enough to give me the thing you need most, like, of your own willing volition? I'm like, the fuck? Like, it's really, really bad. And it's like, my guy, you've had 5 years and this is the best that you've done. It's interesting. It's interesting. And I think that's really my main problem with this, is that he has said on multiple occasions that he's hundreds, if not thousands of years old. He is incredibly, incredibly old, but truly he acts like a 22-year-old, and I hate it. I literally hate it. He is broody to the point where, like, he's literally, like, still developing his brain. He's mean, and he's really fucking dumb. Like, he's really, really dumb, and it's pissing me off, I won't lie. Like, our main character has come up with this whole idea that he's gonna hire her, and she is going to set up this whole elaborate thing to trick the girl she hates most into falling in love with him and giving up the thing she loves most in order to break the curse, so that our main girlie can be paid for the job. And, like, that's essentially what this whole plot is. And of course, as they are building up this ploy to trick this other lady, they're going to fall in love, and that's going to be the book. But I'm just finding myself asking so many questions. A part of this curse is that this king and his closest packmates are restricted to the grounds of this manor just outside of this winter town, and this manor is falling apart, and she gets put into the only, like, normal-ish room, but, like, it's still, like, really dusty, and things are not going well. And so I'm like, you've lived in this house for 5 years, and, like, and, like, the building is falling apart. Like, I'm sorry, now that like our Belle has come in, I don't remember her actual name, but our Belle has come in, and she's like, yes, we're gonna fix up this place so we can invite people over and, you know, have this whole thing. And it's like, why didn't they do this 5 years ago when they were trapped into this house? Like, they've been living here in this, like, falling apart thing. And it's just like, it's just other things like that in which they kind of have explained the major power structures of this world, in which apparently each of the courts has, like, a Seelie king and an unseelie king. I don't really understand that. And it used to be that the northern part of this island was where all the Fae were, and then there was a big war, and they needed to, like, get the evil humans out, and so now they're all over this island, and so his winter court got pushed to the southern border, so this land is all new to him. And I'm like, okay, this is weird, but sure. So now he's, like, in this new land, and he's like, this is like a blink in the eye into my existence, like, I don't care about this place. And I'm like, okay, but I'm like, where are the rest of your people? Like, I just have a lot of questions, and I'm not satisfied with any of the answers that we're getting. So I like the vibes, I like the idea of this book, but I feel like for people like me that just unintentionally overanalyze everything, like, it's not going well. Do I sound like I'm lying when I say I'm enjoying it though? Like, I am, but it's just not going to be super highly rated, I guess is what I'm going to say. Alright, last night I ended up just sitting in this reading chair and just cranking through the rest of this book. I read, like, 150, 200 pages in one sitting, so I was like, no, I want to get to the end. The problems I had in the beginning of the book were the same problems I had with the second half of the book, with the additions of the third act breakup was really stupid. I hated it. I understood it, but I hated it. And I saw about maybe the halfway point, I figured out, like, the twist of the curse, and I was like, all right, on like both sides. Like, I hate you both as characters for not figuring out either of these two, because one of them was at fault for not understanding something and the other one was at fault for not understanding the other thing, and so I'm like, okay, neither of you are very smart. But honestly, overall, it is one of the better Beauty and the Beast retellings that I've read. I really loved the vibes and the atmosphere and the world that we have created, and I learned by reading the acknowledgements at the end that this is actually a sequel series, completely unrelated to another series, and this one also continues, and we've already met the female main character for the next series, for the next book in this series. So I will definitely continue with this series in this world because I really, really like the world that she's created, and I'm really obsessed with the next character. She's going to be a Cinderella story. I'm really excited for her, so I will definitely be continuing this series, and I want to go back and read the original books in this world because I think those are going to be more high fantasy. I think they take place in wartime because this is like 20 years past wartime at this point. So is this the best fantasy book I've ever read? No. Best romantasy book I've ever read? No. Best Beauty and the Beast retelling I've ever read? No. But I did enjoy my time, and it was a very quick, fast read in a really cool world, and I'm happy to support an indie author that I met, and she was really, really, really nice. Plus, so not only are the, like, every chapter, the pages are really decorative, but further on at about the 200 page mark, we got this overlay, and we got one more further on. Let me find it. And again, here was that front cover art thing, and then here's the back, which honestly is also really pretty. So this was her signing book exclusive. I think it's only available when you meet her in person, and this book is gorgeous. Like, it is absolutely stunning. I'm really happy I have it. But as much as I would love to continue reading those fall books, it is now mid-November, and I have not really started my November TBR. I need to get cranking on that, and get back to those reading vlogs that I have coming up. I have several that are planned. I've hinted at a couple, so I need to get reading those because we are quickly realizing that there's only like 5 or 6 weeks left of the year, and yeah, I need to get reading. So thank you so much for joining me on this fall reading vlog. I think we read some really good books together. I'm very happy with them. They're books that I've been dying to get to for a while, and this was the perfect time for me to just sit down and crank through them. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.